Metaphors tend to be a picture that we have in our head about how the task is going to go. Often these can be subconscious blocks that hold us back from taking action because we see it in our head as a metaphor as something too big. Typically, when we see something as large, or we think we have to be perfect, we tend to build metaphors that don't serve us. And typically this happens automatically. So the question is, what's your initial metaphor that you have about the block that's holding you back? This is step one. Finding your actual metaphor that you have sort of in your head now, a visual representation of how you view this project. How does it look like to you? What is it like? What do you see when you imagine this project? This is what happens with our metaphors. They don't serve us. They are visual representations of what's going on inside emotionally. But here's where it gets interesting, because you can control your metaphors. So the next step is to ask yourself, if this were a cartoon and you could change it where anything could happen because it's in your imagination, how could you overcome the metaphor that you have? How could you overcome it in a way that feels good for you? What would need to happen? How would that look? What other tools or devices might you employ in a cartoonish manner so that you can overcome the metaphor that was holding you back previously? No matter what the original metaphor is, the question is, how can you change it so that it feels good for you, so that it feels manageable to you? And then finally, the third step is to simply ask yourself, with that changed metaphor, with the ability to change that metaphor, how does it feel now for you to get started on that thing? Oftentimes it becomes much easier for you to just get started once you have the power of the metaphor serving you. Your task after that, or step 4, is to feel good and remember that image of the metaphor and then just get started. And anytime that you feel a block, just ask yourself what the metaphor is and then figure out a way to change that metaphor for you. And anytime you can do that, anytime you can remember the metaphor that serves you, it becomes much easier for you to get started.